Willow, let's come over here so everybody can see how pretty you are. Isn't this a gorgeous dog? This is Willow. Let's look at the camera so everybody can see what you look like. There we go. And Willow is a very, very nervous and anxious dog. She has a lot of cortisol in her blood, which is the stress hormone. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can teach your dog to focus, which is to look at you in the face on command. Now, this is a powerful command because you can use it later on to redirect your dog's attention away from things when they start getting into something. Just like us, if we start an argument, we start off at level 1 energy. Then as it continues to go to level 2, 3, 4, 5, eventually at the end, we're like, well, if you're like Donald Trump or whatever it is, and we're yelling and screaming, we're so into it that we're all worked up. And then if somebody says, hey, please stop arguing, we can't just let it go. We have to wind ourselves down. Dogs' reactivity or energy level is the same way. They start at 1, then they go 2 to 3. So if you see the dog staring at something, that's usually the first warning. So if we catch the dog when it's staring and redirect them out of that stare at level 1, they can calm themselves down much easier. All right, so now the way that I teach this is a form of operant conditioning because it actually helps reduce stress in the dog. If a dog voluntarily looks you in the eyes for longer than like 7 seconds, it starts releasing oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine into the dog's brain and into your brain. And when your body's producing those things, it can't produce cortisol, the stress hormone. So we can stop off the production of what's making it worse. So I'm going to try to do this sideways so you can see it. So what I'm going to do is I've got about 12 treats in my left hand. I'm a right-handed person. I'm going to hold between my thumb and forefinger like this, and I'm going to put them on my knee. So I want to look uniform. Now she's going to go straight to where the smell is strongest. I'm not moving my hand. I'm watching her eyes. Now the only thing that will get her the treat is if she looks up at me. Now she doesn't know this yet, so she's just going to try to take it. That's why I'm holding it in such a way where she can't really get to it. And I'm pressing it up against my knee and then between my thumb and forefinger. And watch her eyes like a hawk. Focus. She gave me a quick glance while she kept on licking. The instant she looks at you, you have to raise it to your nose. And then I immediately reload after she's gotten it. I forgot to assign the command word. That's okay, but you don't have to do the first couple times. But you normally would say it every time. Focus. So she looked at me for a second, then looked at that direction. So I reload again. I say the word focus every time it goes into her mouth. I say focus right after it goes into her mouth. And what we should start seeing is her spending less time focused, looking at my knee, and instead looking at my face faster and faster. And she seems to be a really smart dog. So we'll see how quickly she picks this up. Focus. So I always raise to my nose because I want to maintain her looking at me. If I go straight from my knee to her mouth, she's just going to look at my knee. Focus. So I want to do in 1 second for each movement, and I'll count it out this time for you. One second, focus. Eventually, you're going to do it like this. Oops. 1 second. Focus. Normally I would want that to take 15 to 20 seconds. Now you saw she started leaning towards me, which is why we don't go from 1 second to 15 seconds. So the idea is when you're doing this, for all 12 treats, is which I usually have for each incident, I put them, I'm going to sit, and then all 12 treats, it's 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, focus. And then I reload and repeat. Focus. Don't say focus till it goes in her mouth. I make a mistake, most of my clients do. And then you reload and keep on repping this.
So focus as you're giving it.
After you give the treat, after it goes in the mouth. And so, and again, watch your eyes. It doesn't have to be eye contact. Just a quick eye dart will work. But immediately start raising it to your nose. So you're always going to raise it 1 second to your nose, and then eventually you're going to start elongating the second movement. 1 second, 1 second. So for all 12 treats, 1 second, 1 second. And when you do this, don't always just do it here. Do it here, do it there, do it there, do it upstairs, do it all over the house. And then eventually and I'll talk about extrapolating in a minute. So basically you're going to do this for all 12 treats and then do it again some other time. You want to do this probably about 3 to 5 times a day. And each time you do it, like once she starts pretty much just staring at you the whole time, then you go 1 second, 2 seconds on the second movement. And for all 12 treats. Then maybe the third time you do it 1 second, 3 seconds. That's a pug. And you get to the point where you're at 15 to 20 seconds. You want to be at 15 seconds within 7 days. Dogs get bored with this exercise. It's super easy. You just want to rep it about 3 times a day with each dog. More is faster and better. And once you get to the point where for 15 seconds, the dog will stare at you for 15 seconds as that treat's coming down towards them. The next stage is you want to go practice outside in the backyard or in the garage. A place where there's a little bit more criteria of stimulus, but not a walk or not around other dogs. So you might want to practice in the garage, and then you go back to 1 second for all 12 treats. And then once she starts staring at you again in the garage, then you start elongating and get to the point where you're at 15 seconds. Then you do it in your backyard when there's no squirrels, the other dogs are not there, none of that. There's no construction. The easiest version, because now there's birds and sights and sounds and smells, and I can run around the yard. And if she wants to go run around the yard, let her run around the yard first, and then practice this exercise. And again, go back to 1 second, and eventually get yourself to 1 second to 12 seconds for all, 15 seconds for all 12 treats. The next step that I do is I often do this when I'm on walks. So I have the dog walking next to me in a heel position. I say focus, the dog looks up at me, and as we continue to walk, I raise my nose and go like that, 1, 1. 1 second, 1 second. And eventually I get to the point, 1 second, 15 seconds. The dog is like running into things because it's looking up at me instead of looking at the dog that's approaching you, or the neighbor, or the snowblower, or whatever it is that she's reactive to. And again, since she's looking at you in the face, it's stopping the production of cortisol. So it's not making her more stressed out. You've redirected her attention away from something. So let's say you have a neighbor dog that you know she doesn't like, and she's going to bark at that dog. We want to get her out of that situation before she feels the need. When she barks, she's saying, "You're too close, I want you to leave." Well, what we do instead is she hesitates a little bit. We say focus, she looks up at us, and then we turn and we walk around the corner, we cross the street, or we do whatever it is. So she sees, I don't have to control the situation. My handler is going to control the situation, make sure that I am in a safe environment, so I don't have to correct myself. Now, the next stage that I would do, the walking stage, I'd probably do at the same time where I'd have you do it at, there's a dog daycare that she goes to. And so I would try to do it in the lobby. Now, that's going to be really hard in the lobby because there's all these dogs there. So maybe you go in the car, and if you have a van, it'd be ideal, but just get out of the car and just kind of sit there before you get close to it. And by this point, focus. They're better and better at it. And so eventually you just say focus, the dog stops what they're doing looking at you, and you don't have to hold the treat. The dog will just do it with the verbal cue. That's why we give the treat and say the verbal cue after. So if you practice this enough, it's a great way to get, if you see your dog starting to stare, the hackles go up, the tail goes up, the ears go, well, I was going to say ears go up, your ears always go up. The hackles, the hair on her spine, especially back here on her butt, she starts breathing heavy. We call that a dry pant, or holding her breath, or staring directly, or staring like this. So I'm staring, but I'm not looking directly. A whale eye, which was where we see a lot of white in the eye. The guardian here works with dogs, so she knows what to look for. So you want to look for those warning signs the dog gives, and then as soon as you start seeing them, ask the dog to focus on you, and then get the dog to move away. Now, we can also follow this up with a follow-up session and do some what we call behavior adjustment training. Behavior adjustment training is where we kind of create a situation where we help the dog practice, instead of acting confrontational to get people to leave, teach the dog to move away and increase the distance herself. But that's something for another video. Well, Willow, let's do one more focus. Focus, and that's a good reminder. Don't have like sounds, nobody having eating or any of that stuff, because the more of those things makes it harder. Eventually you want to do it when you have those things going on, but first we want it the easiest version possible. Well, this is Willow, and this is how you can teach your dog to focus using a little operant conditioner.